Hey, David Brewster here with episode Chordplay, and this is part 2 of the Chords of Queensryche with a special look at chords from Operation Mindcrime. And Queensryche's essential. They were formed in Bellevue, Washington in 1980 and went on to sell more than 20 million albums worldwide. And they're widely considered one of the big three of progressive metal, along with Face Warning and Dream Theater. In case you're curious why I'm focusing on clean chords instead of distorted rhythms and riffs and stuff like that. And a lot of people, when they think of metal, they think of these abrasive, aggressive, distorted rhythms and riffs and solos and stuff. And I do too, but also hiding in pretty much all forms of metal, whether it's death metal, speed metal, thrash metal, progressive metal, whatever. You can find these clean, intros and outros and interludes and stuff. And that goes all the way back to, bands like, Black Sabbath and Metallica, obviously Queensryche, and there's a ton of this, floating around within metal. But we're going to focus on these kind of spooky and eerie, clean guitar passages and sections from songs on this album. And if you listen to Operation Mindcrime, you'll hear it's just loaded with all these different, acoustic guitar parts, 12-string, clean guitar parts. And I'm going to basically, perform all these parts on electric guitar using a clean channel, whether it was acoustic or 12-string or whatever. So I am going to demonstrate all this on electric. But if you keep these clean guitar parts in mind, the next time you listen to Operation Mindcrime, you'll hear they're all over that album. They're everywhere, like in between songs or intros, outros, interludes, little segues. It's loaded with these kind of spooky and eerie sounding, clean guitar parts. All right, with the opening, that's Revolution Calling from the album, and I'm going to basically feature these examples in chronological order. And I am going to leave a few out. I'm not going to feature every single clean guitar part. I think there's a part from like Spreading the Disease that I'm not going to feature. So that's not everything in this lesson, but there is a big bulk of these clean, kind of haunted chords, in this lesson. And, with Revolution Calling right here, you're basically doing this. Slowly building. Of course, the song just totally kicks in after this part, but that's the first thing you hear in the song. And he has this really chorusy, shimmery sound. I don't know if he's using like a Roland, JC120 or what, but he has this very distinct, clean sound. And I think this is Chris DeGarmo. I'm not really sure who's playing, what on this part, but you can see right there, we're basically starting with this, and I kind of arranged these chords for like this kind of technical challenge, on the fretboard, because I'm using all 4 of my fret hand fingers, to play these shapes. So we're working on part of the song, but we're also working on your technique a little bit for that, challenge to play those chords. So that first chord against that open A, which I'm going to relate all these chords to A, because you just hear that A the entire time. But that's going to be an A sus2 right there, because we're playing A, B, E, E. Right? Then that E note's going to move back to a D, and that's technically the sus4 of A. So now we have the sus2 and sus4. So guess what? That's A sus2 sus4. A, B, D, E. And then we're going to reach all the way up here, and you're going to grab basically this F natural. And that's going to be an A sus2 flat 6. Like that. Very unusual, very unusual chord there. But you can hear that progression. It does move back to the A sus2 sus4 after that. But it's just a 4-chord cycle like that. And then you're pedaling that open A 5 times between the chords like this. That really mysterious, A sus2 flat 6. Those chords have a really cool, suspenseful kind of sound, which is awesome. Okay, next up is The Mission, and it's something like this. beginning kind of reminds me, it's this mysterious, almost like a James Bond kind of secret agent, you know, kind of progression right there. It reminds me of James Bond a little bit, but you've got this kind of arpeggiated part. And it's opening with that E minor, kind of a partial E minor right there. And then basically just add a C right there, and that's going to change that to E minor flat 6. And then you're going to raise that to C sharp, and it's just an E minor 6. And then go back to that A minor flat 6. So you have this kind of gradual progression happening right there. I hit the low E open, the bass is actually what's playing that. You know, just to hit that low E root. You know, something like that. And I think I'm playing that way too fast. It's really slow. Hear this. Right? And you're going to basically hit the low E open right there. And then you're playing this kind of partial E5 right there. So it's the B, E, and then also the high E string open. And right there, that's also E5, but you're grabbing that higher B. Like that. Right there, you're basically raising, you're grabbing E augmented, just a little piece of it. So you had E5, and then that modified E5 with that higher B, go back to the regular E5. And right there, you're raising that, so that's basically E augmented. You know, a raised fifth. And then you hear it move back for this, and that's basically E sus4, grabbing that A. So I'm relating all these to E because you have that very distinct, you know, E root note right there. Right, so slowly that was E5, E5 modified, back to that E5, E augmented, and then E sus4, and then you repeat it again. Just end on that little partial E augmented, like that. Okay, next up is Sweet Sister Mary, kind of the centerpiece of the album. And this sounds like it could totally be in a horror film. It has this very haunting and mysterious sound. And there's 3 different parts I'm going to perform here, and I'll break them down separately after I demonstrate this. But something like this. Too. The chords are, you know, just all over the place. It's so cool. So in the beginning, we're basically starting with this A5, and you can just really think of an E octave with an A, root note or bass note. So that's the first pattern. You're going to pick open A, D to B, and do that again. And then just the open A to the D. And then right there, you're going to move this E octave down to E flat. And then you're playing basically an E flat 5. So right there, you're going to start with the B string. And then you're going to basically grab this low G on the low E string, and then also the open G. Like that. So it's really weird. And then you want to go back to the E octave and do that A5 again. And then right there, it actually moves to 3/4 time. So there's a change in the time signature too. Go back to E flat. And you're going to basically start, that B string again. And then you start the whole thing over. So really slow, it's this. Tricky. Alright, and then the verse starts and it's going to this. And that's basically, once again, that's like an A minor flat 5 or A flat 5. Because you're basically playing, E natural and E flat together. So you can think of that as A minor flat 5. And you're going to move down to this. And you can think of that a couple different ways. Maybe the easiest way might be F7 over A. And then you're going to open up that B string. And that's like an F7, or I'm sorry, F sus4 over A. So that was F7, F7 over A, open up that B string, and then F sus4 over A. So that's really bizarre, but I love those chords. To this part, which is really cool. So that's basically, once again, A minor flat 5. You're kind of picking through it like that. Open up that B string, and that's going to be an A sus2 sharp 11. Just going to pick straight through it. It's such a cool guitar part. And next up is the verse section from I Don't Believe in Love, and it's something like this. So it starts with that D sus2, and then it's a B flat over D right there, and then this is really cool, that's a D minor 11. Kind of grabbing that G note right there. So you had D sus2, B flat over D, D minor 11, and then you're going to basically grab this, which is really bizarre. So that's a D sus2 flat 6. In the open D and open high E, you're also grabbing that B flat and that E note right there. D sus2 flat 6. So one more time there, D sus2, B flat over D, D minor 11, and then D sus2 flat 6. And Queensryche really seems to like these flat 6 chords. They pop up a lot in their music. So after that section, then you just start picking through chords. There's a D5 right here, and then this is going to move back to a D7 sus4 right there. And then you're going to move up to this, and that's D7 sus4, but a different voicing or a different fingering. It's the same chord we had before that, just a different arrangement of the notes. So one more time, D5, D7 sus4, another D7 sus4, and then I'm going to relate this to D, but that's D minor 7 flat 13. It's going to feel a little bit like a piece of B flat sus2, but you've got that D root note. And then basically hit the high E open and then start again on that D sus2 at the beginning. And then you can hear him start to pedal that open D string. Song, and I love those chords too. Up next is Waiting for 22, and I did feature this in the first Queensryche Chordplay, but I love this song. It's like one of my favorite things from the entire album, so I had to feature this again. These chords are so cool, and this is like one of the coolest things I think I've ever heard. But something like this. So cool. I love these chords. So that first chord, that's a B minor 11 right there. Kind of pick through it like that. And you're going to move all the way down to this. That's a G6 sharp 11 right there. Good buddy E minor add 9 right there. And this is very unusual. So it's an F sharp 5, but then you're also going to open up, the D string right there. Like that. So that, the open G string, that's going to be the flat 9 of F sharp. And then the open D string, that's technically the sharp 5 of F sharp. So we're playing with these two very dissonant sounds, the sharp 5 and flat 9, creating that. So it's just implied because it kind of moves through that like this. Really unusual. But then in the midst of that progression, it's really cool. Really cool chord progression. The last example is from My Empty Room, and you really have to make sure your guitar's in tune for one thing. This is a great check of your tuning. And this is literally the epitome of chord play. We're just kind of holding one shape and moving it around in the fretboard, creating these different tonalities and sounds. Something like this. It's really cool. So it's really unusual, and the fingering, you're literally just kind of moving around the fretboard, creating these different types of chords. So that first shape, that's going to be basically A7 sus4, and the picking is exactly the same on all four of these chords. So the high E, B, G, open A, and then the D string. And that's the same pattern you're going to use on the remaining three chords. But you're, like I said earlier, you really have to make sure your guitar's in tune, because right there's a unison. Almost like we're tuning the G string. And then, you know, just a very interesting shape to play. A mix of open strings and fretted notes. Now take that fingering and move it all the way up to the 12th position there, and you're going to do the same picking pattern. Right? That's going to be an A13 sus2, which is really weird. Or an A6 sus2, however you want to think of that. And it's mimicking that same pattern we had with the first chord, that A7 sus4. Back to where you're in the 8th position right there, and that's going to change it to an A minor 11 right there, and then move it back to the 5th position, and that's an A7 sus2 right there. So we're literally just taking this first fingering and moving it around the neck. It almost sounds like Steve Vai if you do that. Pick it for Queensryche. That's going to wrap this episode of Chordplay with a special look at the chords from Operation Mindcrime, you know, featuring Queensryche, of course. And just to clear the air here, you know, when I've declared, you know, Metal Month, the month of October, I'm really just excited about Halloween. That's really what this is all about. I've had some, you know, comments and messages, you know, kind of come my way with confusion, or people, you know, admitting like, I don't like Metal Month, or I don't like metal music. Well, you have to forgive me. I'm a metalhead first and foremost. That's my bread and butter, where it came from. You know, rock, hard rock, and metal. And of course, I've, you know, studied jazz and classical and funk and country and all kinds of stuff. But there's just something about metal and these classic, you know, metal albums and groups and stuff. Really, for me, it's just part nostalgia and part my excitement for Halloween, which is my favorite holiday of the year. So I just get really nerdy and excited, you know, about horror movies and metal music and candy and all kinds of stuff. So forgive me if you're not really on the same page as me as far as October and Halloween. You know, forgive me. And if you are on the same page as me, then get ready. We got a whole month of metal coming. So anyway, leave some feedback and comments. Please subscribe to Lessons, and I'll be back before you know with more content and material. Thank you.